Hey, welcome to the more or less Bric for Blocs overview video. And today we're just going to have a quick look at some of the options that more or less offers. So more or less is basically a read more Bric with a few extra features, and it's really good for letting you collapse long text and mixed media content. So I've got a few examples here in this basic project where we're going to show you our collapsing text by words and by characters and also by height, and we have here a long list of content, and we have these two columns side by side. We have some images, headings, and just how you can collapse quite complicated content. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a Bric here under our by words one. And these Brics do not have to be by the content that you're controlling. You can have them all in the footer if you like. Just for this example, I'm going to be putting them under each one of the examples. So I'm going to add our more or less Bric, and with the Bric selected, we're going to see some options on the right hand side. And so for this example, we're going to go by words. So we're going to make sure that our type is set to words. And the other thing we want to do is our class here. So this class is user definable. It allows you to then target what element that this Bric is going to control. So I'm just going to change this, and we'll call this one words. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to select our paragraph here, and I'm going to paste this class onto this paragraph. And that's telling this Bric that we're going to control this paragraph. You'll see here on the Bric, it actually shows you the class that's being used for this Bric as well, so you can have a visual look at that just really easily on the canvas. So we're going to do a type of words. We're going to do a limit count of say 25 words. That's good, we'll just leave that. We can set the text for our more or less buttons. And let's change this to, let's call it tell me more and tell me less. We can set this button in line. Now if we choose not to have this button in line, we can choose an alignment of left, center or right, but in this case we're just going to do in line. And then we can select an icon for this button. We can have no icon, of course, or show the icon. Let's do plus or minus, and we can choose to have the icons before or after the text. I'm going to keep it as after. And because we're using the inline feature here, we no longer have an option to our gradient, our fade gradient. If I disabled this, we could see our options for our gradient here, and we'll do one of them in one of the other examples. So let's go back to inline. Let's increase the speed of the animation here. And also there's our extra option here for choosing a color for the Bric, which we have on most of our custom Brics now. Okay, and that's just cosmetic. Okay, let's have a look at what this looks like. So as you can see here, we've truncated the text down to 25 words, and we can see our tell me more button with our plus icon, and as we expand it, we see the tell me less with the minus. And what we can also do is style that button, because at the moment it kind of gets lost in the text. Now we have a bunch of CSS classes that you can use for styling this, and on our website we'll have a list of what they are and how you can use them. In this case here, I'm just going to add one class here, and we're going to call that ML button. And this class will actually style all the buttons in more or less. So it's kind of a general generic class we can use. And so I'm going to, with that class, ML button, I'm going to change the color of our text. Let's choose a horrible pink. And with that selected, let's go and have a preview. And you'll see now the tell me more and tell me less is in that pink. Okay, and of course you can style that to look like a button. You can do all sorts of things using the class manager. It's really flexible. Okay, let's do another one by characters here. So once again, I'm going to add the Bric more or less. And with our Bric selected, I'm going to change the class, and we'll call that characters. And we'll copy that. We're going to paste it on our paragraph element, just like before. Come back to our Bric. We're going to change our type to characters, and because we're using characters, we're probably going to do a little bit more Let's do 80 characters. We'll see what that looks like. We'll keep this as more or less. We're not going to do inline this time. Instead, we're going to this time put it in the center. And we will change our icon to arrows. And let's make that before our text. And we're going to not have a fade for this one. And we're going to increase our animation speed. Let's take a look. And so we could probably do a few more characters than what we've done there. But you'll see now we've got our more link and our arrow icons before the text, and it's centered below the content. Okay, so on our next one we've got here, we're going to do one by height. And this is our height feature. Our responsive height type is really good for mixed media when you've got lots of different types of content and layouts. So you can have columns and all sorts of things in here. And I've put everything, just to make it easy, inside a div here. So we're going to apply a class to that entire div. So first I'm just going to add our more or less brick, and let's call this height. Of course, you can call these anything you like. I'm going to select our div here, and I'm going to paste that class there, and come back to our brick. We're going to change our type to responsive height. And now we get these new options where we can set the minimum height in pixels and the maximum height in pixels, and also our fluid range, which gets influenced by the width of our window. So as you go down to smaller breakpoints and you go from different devices, from large screens to tablets to phones, this just really tells it how to handle that responsiveness between the minimum and the maximum. How is it going to flow between those two based on the size of your window? And so you can play around with that to see how that works, and just get a feel for what works for your design. Okay, so the main thing is just setting a minimum size and the maximum size. Because it's responsive, these are the collapsed heights, and then how it's going to flow between them. And so we know it's going to be a maximum of 320 pixels. We're just going to keep that more or less. So more, let's change this to more height, and we'll call this less height. And we can put this on a line to the right, and let's show, we'll just keep our chevrons on there, and we'll keep it after, and we're going to add a gradient. So we're going to have it go from transparent down to white to match our background, and we can set the height here, and you can use any unit of measurement here. So let's try 80 pixels, and we'll see how we go. And we'll speed up the animation again. So let's have a look. As you can see now, our content has been reduced in height. We can see our gradient here, and we've got more height. We'll see our content, less height. Now, one of the cool things that's built into more or less is this dynamic scrolling. So in this case like this, where we've got a lot of height, and where a user may scroll all the way down here and then they collapse that, rather than ending up in some strange place, you'll see that what will happen is our content will scroll into the viewport, and it will be offset from the top. And this is designed to work with sticky headers, because as you see in this project, we have a sticky header. So it knows it's there and will offset from the top based on the height of your header of your menu. And then it will collapse the content. So as we come back down again, let me show you. And we can do that slowly so you can see that in action. So let's slow that right down. And as we collapse it, you'll see how that works. How cool is that? So really, it's a great user experience when you have very long, complicated content that you want to get out of the way. It nicely lines it up for the user. Okay, let's reduce that down again. Okay, one more example I want to do here is we've got a range of cards here, and we're going to use one brick to control the content in all of these cards. So I'm going to, in this case, just put it down here in the footer. Again, it doesn't matter where you put it. And I'm just going to call this cards. We're going to copy that. We're going to copy that. And we're going to apply it to our our paragraphs that we have in here. Okay, so each of the paragraphs in the card has now got our class, and we are going to do this by characters, and let's do 20 characters, and then we can say read more, so we could expand and collapse text. We don't want this in line, we're going to put it in the middle. We don't need an icon here. We're going to disable our fade. We're going to speed up our animation. Okay, let's have a look at that, what that looks like. We come down to our cards, and we'll see now that has been applied to every one of our cards. And of course, we can expand and collapse our text. How cool is that? Right, so one more or less brick can be applied to multiple elements on the page, or you can have multiple more or less bricks doing different things across your page as well. It's really handy. Okay, that's a quick overview of more or less. There's a few other things under the hood, such as accessibility. It works with keyboard navigation. So as if you've got links or elements that are interactable with keyboard navigation, when it's collapsed, it will actually bypass those. It will take them out of the flow of keyboard navigation. It does lots of little fancy things like that under the hood. So that's a quick overview of our brick, more or less, and we hope you enjoy it. Have a great day.